Well, that could have gone better. Hi, welcome to or back to my channel. My name's Annie, and today I am going to be reading a romantasy book for the first time in a very long time. I think the last one I read was Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, which I read, I don't know, maybe November 2024 or something like that. No, 2023. So it's been quite a while. But today I'm going to be reading Quicksilver by Elsie Hart on my Kindle, and I'm intrigued. I've been hearing about this book and I just kind of have FOMO. I want to see what it's about. I want to see if I like it or if I hate it. I think I might hate it, but I'm trying to be optimistic, okay? I feel like sometimes I do just kind of discount fantasy romance as a genre. I'm like, I could never be into that. I want to give it like a fair shot and read a bunch of different books in the genre. So this is going to be me starting to make like a concentrated effort into doing that. I think my issue with fantasy romance comes from the fact that it's more heavy on the romance than the fantasy. Like, romantic fantasy is fantasy with some romance in it, and then romantasy is romance with some fantasy elements. I think that I, as a reader, am really into character-driven books, which could be good for like the romance element, but somehow I do typically find that romance books and the romantasy books I've read have characters that don't really feel very real. And you'd almost think that with like a romance storyline that you would get people that feel more fleshed out because you're dealing with like their emotions, whereas in fantasy traditionally it's like more plot driven. But I often find that I'm more drawn to the characters in simply like fantasy books, and I find them more fleshed out than in like solely romance books. So I don't know. I'm also really picky when it comes to romance. I'm really picky. I get icked out so easily. I want to give the genre a proper try because I do really like fantasy and I can like romance. I don't usually. So Quicksilver is a book I've been hearing about so much, but I know nothing about it really. I think I first heard of it when Gavin from Gavin Reads It All did his video where he read the romantasy nominees for the Goodreads Choice Awards, and it was on there and he really liked it. And then I'm about to expose myself for being someone that goes on Reddit all the time, but yeah, I was on Reddit, and for some reason, like almost I swear like 5 times in the past week I've opened my Reddit and I'm not even on the romantasy subreddit like at all, but it's coming up on my little like homepage on Reddit and people are talking about Quicksilver. And so I'm like, the people are really reading this. This morning, I was like, I already had it planned to film this video. I went and watched Katie Coulson's Best Books of 2024 according to BookTube video, which is fantastic, by the way. Go watch it if you haven't. Basically every year for the last, I think this is the 3rd year she's doing it. She's watched all these different Best Books 2024 videos by booktubers and compiled a list of like the most mentioned titles. And then she makes a video that like edits together all these different creators and everything they're saying. And it's just beautiful. Love it. But when I was watching it, Quicksilver was on the list. And I finally did learn a little bit more about the plot, but it's still kind of like vague to me in my head. So I might just like try to start reading it and then give you guys a synopsis after that. But from what I understand from the video I watched literally half an hour ago, Quicksilver has to do with this girl and she's living in this world where like people are starving, and then she steals some rations or something and she's about to be executed, and then this guy, wait, let me see, where is he? Yeah, this guy comes and like saves her and then wants her to build weapons for him. This is what I understand, and honestly I'm not sure how much the plot intrigues me, but I'm hearing about it, and I want so badly to be one of the girls that gets it. I'm just so critical, and I want to be someone that can just like have fun with a book, and I feel like that's what the romantic girlies are doing. We'll see. Maybe I'll love this guy. I think his name is Kingfisher. Which, isn't that the name of a fish? Wait, Kingfish. At first I just thought of T. Kingfisher, but I don't think that's helpful. So I'm just going to try to picture him as this. To be fair, this guy's got gray hair and some tats, which I do really like tats. Anyway, why is this clip 9 minutes? Okay, I am going to go to a lookout spot and get some reading done. I've got my tea. No, I'll show you the pretty side. Got some tea I made at home. The only thing is, today it has kind of been raining, so it might be all muddy and gross out, but I wanted to go to a lookout spot. So we're gonna give it the old college try, and afterwards I'm gonna go to a cafe. I guess how long I stay at the lookout spot will depend on the weather, and then I'll get some work done, do some editing, and hopefully read some more, but I will let you know how I feel about Quicksilver. Guys, wish me luck. I really want to like it. I really want to like it. I'm trying to go in with an open mind and an open heart and all that. Okay, I've talked for way too long. Goodbye. See you later. I'll let you know. Bye. So I'm about halfway through Quicksilver. Actually, almost exactly halfway through. It's 610 pages. I'm on page 299, about to start the chapter Amontreath. And so far, I'm kind of in the middle. Like, I don't really hate it. I don't love it. I'm having an okay time. Let me give you a synopsis. Also, side note, it is raining, as you can probably tell, and if you're new here, I live in my family's sunroom, so I'm just surrounded by glass. You will be able to hear the rain. I hope it's kind of soothing. I tried to film inside, but my dad works from home, and the walls in our house are really thin, so I could hear him wherever I was, and I knew you guys would be able to as well, and I thought this would be a bit less distracting. I have some tea, and I'm ready to talk about this. It's been a little while. It's been a couple days. I think it's felt really long for me just because of my life, but I think it's only been a few days. Also, I have decided to keep this vlog spoiler free, except for a spoiler section at the end. So in this book, we're following Saris Thane, who is a woman living in Zilverin. We're following Saris Thane. She lives in Zilverin, which is, I think, a city on this planet. I don't think it's like a whole country or something, but specifics are unclear. And Zilverin is on this planet that has 2 suns in the sky, so it's super hot, and people are really struggling with that. There's not a lot of water, it has to be rationed, and this whole city's ruled by this queen called Madra, and she sucks. The city is laid out in like spokes on a wheel type of vibe, so there's different wards, and Saris lives in the 3rd ward, which is kind of systematically oppressed. Like, they don't get enough water rations or food rations. As a result, there's lots of disease and death, and Saris lives with her younger brother Hayden, and she and Hayden are just trying to get by. Saris is a pretty well-renowned thief, and you know, she steals food and water for her and her brother. And she'll also sometimes steal scrap metal and melt it down because she works at this forge, and then she'll sell that for money. The book opens with a pretty intense scene where she's caught stealing some scrap metal, and then she has to fight one of the queen's guards who are like basically killing machines. Somehow though, she steals his gauntlet and gets away, and she is psyched. She's like, wow, I'm gonna melt down the gold on this gauntlet. It's gonna be worth so much money. I'm gonna be fed for ages. Me and Hayden will be fine. But she has basically just committed like one of the worst crimes you can commit, which honestly, stealing a gauntlet doesn't sound that bad, but the queen rules with like an iron fist, and even stealing the scrap silver and getting caught would have gotten Cyrus in a lot of trouble. But stealing a whole gauntlet from one of the queen's guards is like, the queen would take that as a personal insult. So Cyrus is in deep shit, basically. Long story short, through a series of like mishaps, her brother is caught by the guards with the gauntlet. She and him are obviously very close. They kind of only have each other, and he's prepared to give himself up for the crime that she committed. But she insists that no, she did this, and then she goes and kills two of the queen's guards. So, you know, she's in even deeper shit now. She eventually is about to be executed, and she pulls this sword out of a stone. The sword has been like calling to her in this area where she's executed. So she kind of fights back. She pulls this sword, and it's stuck in this like little circle of silver. As soon as she pulls it out, the quicksilver, becomes all liquid. And this guy ascends from the silver like some sort of god of death. And he kills the guy that's about to execute her and takes her through this portal to the world of the Fae. He is Fae. Side note, can we bring back elves? I feel like Fae are a little overdone, and I just read The Hobbit and watched the movie, all the movies for The Hobbit, and I'm about to read Lord of the Rings. Elves are so hot. They're so hot. Like, in that high fantasy kind of way. They're like graceful. They do archery. I don't know. I kind of miss when elves were like the hot guys instead of Fae, because I'm just a little bit tired of Fae. But, you know, this guy's hot. Look at him. So, I guess we can't be too mad. So, she's taken to the Fae world, and it turns out that this guy, Kingfisher, who's our love interest and the guy that saved her, needs her help with something. Actually, the whole kingdom does. So, she wakes up in this Fae castle. She goes to see the king, and he tells her that she has, like, special powers. She's an alchemist. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but there is something about her where she can like interact with metals, and she sometimes uses this at her job at the forgery. So it seems that she was able to kind of pull this sword out of the silver and awaken the quicksilver when no one else has been able to really do that. The castle she's woken up in, the Fae there are at war with other Fae, and they used to love to use the quicksilver, which are basically like these portals between realms. So she's woken up in like a whole nother world, basically. And for a long time, like thousands of years, Madra, the queen in Zilverin, stuck the sword in the quicksilver, and all of the portals stopped working. So you would think, yay, now portals are open. This can help the Yevelians, which are the Fae that she's just been with, in their war. Like, they can travel, they can, you know, do sneak attacks or whatever. But going through this quicksilver without a relic will drive you crazy. So a relic is basically like a pendant or something that will have something personal to you and some quicksilver in it kind of melded together. And it will protect you from the quicksilver, which will drive you crazy. Unfortunately, all of the relics are gone. Don't really know what happened to them. I think maybe it was like when the portals closed, they had a lot of people in other realms that were stuck there with their relics. So basically these Fae, they just don't really have any. And they're like, well, if you can like make us a bunch of relics with your powers. That would help us win this war, and then we can let you go back to Silverin because we know that you're like really worried about your brother or whatever. And that's kind of the deal. Kingfisher is kind of the one that is tasked with overseeing her in this goal. So he's like not the bastard son of the king, but his mom married the king when she already had him. So he's kind of the bastard. The king doesn't really like him that much, and he's been kind of an outcast. And he shows back up at court with Sarah's being like, oh, this is my ticket back into Fae society. I have someone that can help you guys. And the king's kind of like, well, you need to oversee her and like see if she can do this thing, basically. Does that make sense? I feel like that was a really long explanation. So I'm sorry, but I have filmed this explanation about the plot 3 times, and every time I'm like, I make it too long, I should cut it down. So this is what you're getting. That's kind of the premise that we're working with, is that she has to help make all these relics for the Fae Kingdom. Kingfisher's helping her with that, and then she'll be able to go back to her own world because basically, like, she's just worried. She's worried about her brother. So the main thing that's been on my mind while reading this is kind of, why is this book so popular? Like, why this one in particular? I really want to know. To me, so far, it's been very tropey and a little bit like copy paste in terms of characters. Let me go into that. So you would think that Saris and Kingfisher would just like, you know, they have a common goal. They can just work together. But for some reason, this is enemies to lovers. And I do kind of get why. Like, he's been through the quicksilver several times without his relic, so it has driven him a little bit crazy. And it's kind of like, even when he's not wearing the relic, just in the normal world, not when he's going through the quicksilver, he goes a little bit crazy. So he's kind of like really haunted. It's kind of just made him like a bit of a dick to everyone in his life. He's finally back at court, so he's seeing his sister for the first time in ages. He's seeing like his best friend for the first time in ages. And he's just kind of a jerk to everyone except for like his friend. It does make sense. Like, I do love a tortured male main character sometimes. But when I first was reading this, I was like, does it have to be enemies to lovers? Because really, like, they have a common goal. And it's not really enemies to lovers because they're not enemies, but I'm not even going to go into that. This is too long. I do understand that enemies to lovers is quite popular right now. And I love that trope as much as the next girly. But at first, I was a little bit like, why do they have to dislike each other just off the bat? Like, he saved her life. They have a common goal. So that's like kind of what I'm talking about in terms of like tropes, is mostly the enemies to lovers thing. But when I mentioned like copy paste romantasy characters, I think that the romantasy genre can feel a little bit stale to me. And I, again, am not the most well versed in the genre, but I did read all of Throne of Glass back in high school, so like 2018 or something, and I think that might be part of why I'm so tired of every female main character I read in romantasy feeling like a Selena Sardathian ripoff. Because I mean, the girl is sick. I love Selena, but I don't need every female main character to be like her, and I do always get that vibe. Also, if you don't want to be spoiled at all, you can skip the next minute or so. I'll put something up, but I don't think this is that spoilery. It's pretty clear, and we learn pretty quickly, that Saris is at least partly Fae, and then people keep mentioning this like whole line of Fae that would have rights to the throne that has supposedly died off. And the whole Throne of Glass thing just will not leave my mind. Like, of course, I'm saying it now, Saris is part Fae, and she's going to be the heir, the missing heir to that, like, dynasty or whatever. And then she's gonna be able to like be a major player in the Fae world, which is exactly Selena Sardothian, except, you know, you're adding... Wait, so Turn of Glass has Fae too. Does it? I don't know. But you're adding the Fae stuff. So I think, to me, I still don't really know why this one is super popular. I also made like a little pros and cons list that I wanted to go through. So I guess I'll start with cons because I'm kind of like in my critical bag right now. Number one on things I don't like, I wrote Fisher's personality, and it's tough. It is tough. A pro is that he's hot, by the way, because, I mean, where did he go? Look at him. Look at him. He's hot. But this kind of goes along with the whole, like, why does it have to be enemies to lovers? He is just kind of a jerk. Like, obviously he and Cyrus are attracted to each other. Duh. This is, like, a fantasy romance. That's so loud. And these are the two love interests. But he, like, kind of publicly shames her for it. Like, in front of their friends. So I guess not, like, really, really super publicly. He's always like, yeah, I bet you wish that you were having sex with me right now. Like, in front of his friends. And his friends are, like, kind of disgusted. And he's like, oh, I can smell how turned on you are by me. Which, this happens multiple times, grosses me out. I'm so sorry. Don't stop talking about that. I there's something about that grosses me out so much. He's like, I can smell that you're aroused. And I'm like, please go away. Please go away. But there's a big thing about, like, humiliation here, which I'm just not into. I don't know. I also really don't like this guy named Carrion. If you've read it, you know, don't like him. He sucks. I think that this is actually a bit more of just like a critique. I would love to see more of the fantasy world. I want to know the politics in this Fae world, because we're halfway through the book and I still don't know why the Fae are fighting this war and like what it's all about. And I'm hoping that we get to see that. Again, I'm only halfway through the book. This is the first book in a series. I don't know how long the series is going to be. So I'm hoping that we'll get there. But I love a little bit more political intrigue. I just don't know if this is like the story that's going to do that. But that's just kind of reader I am. As for things I like, as I mentioned before, Kingfisher's hot. He's also like, the descriptions of him are really good. Like, I'm a little bit into it. I am. Like, he's a bit of a jerk, but you can't say he's not sexy. You really can't. I also really like a lot of the characters. So I do like Cyrus as a main character. I think especially before we've gone to the Fae world. I like a girl that's, like, willing to do whatever it takes for her family. I like her, like, drive and her snark and how she's good at battle. Like, it is formulaic and we've seen it before, but I can't say I'm, like, too mad about it. Am I contradicting myself? Maybe. I'm sorry. But, like, I do like her. Like, there was this scene in the beginning where she's talking to the guy that's gonna execute her about her political beliefs, which, listen, it did feel a little bit clunky to put it in that kind of setting, because they were, like, walking to where he was gonna execute her, and she was like, by the way, your queen sucks, and this is why. But I did like what she was saying. And I like that she really cares about her brother and all that. So I can't fault the girl too much. I don't think it's, like, the worst thing ever reading from her perspective. I do sometimes really enjoy her and think she's kind of funny. I really like Kingfisher's sister. I love his best friend. I kind of, like, in my head, have sometimes wished that this was a love story between her and Renfist, Kingfisher's best friend, because he is just so sweet and he's like a warrior and he's cute. I don't know. There's also this super cute little, like, snow fox that she makes friends with. So I like that. And I do like the writing from time to time. Couldn't find a specific example because I don't think I actually highlighted any, but I do. Some of her descriptions of, like, the world are super nice. Some of the descriptions of Kingfisher. There are some, you know, grammar, punctuation issues, but I am putting this to the side, guys. Look at me. Look at me. Right now, things I would like to see are, one, I'm really curious about how curious How curious. I'm really curious to see how Kingfisher is gonna somehow be redeemed as like some great guy. Because I don't know how he's gonna really excuse all his actions, and we're supposed to end up thinking he's a great guy, because I haven't really got into it, but I really hate some of the things he does, and I would love to see some more political type of stuff and more world building. But overall, it's like decent. It's decent. I'm gonna check in with you guys once I finish, unless there's something that really shocks me, because I have heard that there's like a bunch of twists at the end of this book. We'll see. I know this is a bit of a long update, but I had a lot of thoughts. So I will see you guys once I've finished. So I have finished Quicksilver by Callie Hart, and I'm still wondering why this one is so popular. Out of all the romantasy books, I'm really wondering why it's this. And I've come to some guesses. We'll see. So I gave this book a 3-star when I finished it, but it's been a couple days and I've since lowered my rating to 2.5, which doesn't really bode well going forward. I could see myself lowering it again in the future. So first I'm gonna go through some like closing thoughts of mine from the book, non-spoiler, and then I'll talk a little bit about why I think people are really gravitating towards this story, or what makes it like special in terms of romantasy books and why it's so popular. And then at the end of this, I'll get into spoiler thoughts, although I do have to leave for work in 10 minutes, which I should have filmed this earlier. So I will probably be saving my spoiler thoughts for like after I go home from work. In the second half of this book, we do get to see a more vulnerable side to Fisher, which is super needed because he is just a jerk in the first half of the book. And he is like very clearly full of all these emotions, but we don't really know why. They're all seemingly make him just act horribly to everyone around him, but like especially Cyrus, which sucks. It sucks. But specifically in chapter 26, Ash and Cinders, we do get to see more of like his backstory and why he is the way he is. And honestly, when I was reading it, it did kind of make him grow on me a bit. I began to kind of like get it, you know, like it's this guy that's like, he's all tortured, he's not very expressive with his emotions, and then he opens up and you find out that like he's actually a nice guy. He's just like mostly mean because of his pain and stuff. Like this is very classic romance stuff. Like I feel like this is very much just like a bad boy romance type of thing where, you know, the guy is just a jerk, but then you find out something sad about him, and then it's like you see him being nice to like 2 people and you're like, wow, you know what, he's actually he's a really good character, and he's actually a really good guy. And honestly, I kind of almost fell for it. And then the second I stopped reading, like a couple hours later, I was like, wait, but that doesn't erase everything. Like he still was so mean in the first half of the book, which I will get into with spoilers, but I don't really want to mention exactly what he did in this section of the vlog. Another note I'd have is the world building was, I didn't love it. And I think at first I was a bit like, oh wow, you know, like this world is pretty interesting compared to other romantasy books. But there's just some things that like don't really make sense. So clearly the premise of this book is based on the fact that there are multiple dimensions and multiple realms in this world. However, we go between 2 realms and that's it. And at first I was writing these notes today and I was like, oh, well, maybe like in the second book, she'll go into different realms. But in the spoiler section, I will talk about why I don't think that she will. I think she's just gonna stick to these 2 realms, and I don't like that. If there's something with multiple realms, that implies that you should go to more than just one, if we're starting at one and going to another. If that's the case, if you're just gonna do that, why not just make it like a portal to fairy, you know? Like that is a done thing. It's been done many times, but like, I don't know, maybe she'll surprise me and they will go to like a whole bunch of different realms in the series. I don't know how long it's gonna be. I don't know if it's just gonna be this book and the next book that's coming in November, but it just didn't make much sense to me. The other thing that didn't make any sense is the phase magic. Like, honestly, I could not tell you how it works. it seems like sometimes their magic is really limitless, and then other times it's tied to objects, and then other times they just can't do anything about things. Let me explain. The Fae can't manipulate quicksilver unless they're alchemists, right? Which is why they're so happy Cyrus is around. But they can channel magic through swords and other weapons imbued with like quicksilver magic, so they can channel some sort of magic that way. On the other hand, there's all these random things that they can do, and some Fae can do some things and other Fae can't do some things. I guess it depends on their personal powers, but again, this didn't really make sense to me. For example, Fisher can make Cyrus's or anyone's clothes disappear. He does this so many times in the book. He wants to undress her, he's like, boom, you're naked. It's kind of weird, but yeah. And then sometimes as part of her outfit that he gives her, she'll have like daggers and stuff. So he can make weapons like that with his mind. Like that. Out of what? Not sure. Not sure. That's never really explained. He can also clean rooms like that. He can get machines to work that are broken very easily. He can create these like shadow portals, which shadows are kind of Fisher's thing. I have heard him being referred to as Shadow Daddy, and I get it. I do. So it seems like that kind of portal thing and his like shadows that he uses, that's like specific to him. And it just doesn't really make sense. Like, they can conjure all these different things apparently, like materials that aren't there, but for some reason they can't conjure silver, even like regular silver, because there's a shortage of it in the kingdom. And they can't conjure quicksilver, which I guess would make more sense because it's like a magical substance, but still I don't understand why not. I hope I'm making sense, but honestly it just seems like there's no real rules for the magic for the Fae, and it's never properly explained to us. There's no seeming like limits except for the quicksilver stuff to what Fisher can do, and then all the other Fae, it's very like murky what they can do. Honestly, I have no idea. I don't know, I just wanted to see more from the world building. I felt like what we got to see was very small in scope when we're thinking about the concept of different realms and worlds. Like in Cyrus's world, we only see one city, Zilverin. In the Fae world, we only really see Evelia, which is like the kingdom where Fisher and all of them live, even though the map shows that there's others. So I guess maybe in the next book they'll go to these other spots in the Fae realm, but then why? I don't know. Just other realms. I want to see it. I'm not even big on like multiple dimension type stories, but I feel like if you're teasing it, like you should do it. Do it with your chest, you know? Let's get into what makes it special or why I think it's so popular. Now, this is just me making guesses based on what I know about people that read romantasy. Based on what I know about like the specific tropes and stuff in romantasy, as someone who's read some of it and heard a lot of discussions around it, I think that there are several things that make this really stand out to romantasy readers. But at the same time, I think that someone who's not a big romantasy fan like myself will read this and come away feeling a bit unimpressed based on the amount of hype that this has received. One thing I think that makes this kind of stand out for people in the romantasy world is the amount of twists at the end and the fact that they're actually shocking. And I had heard that there were good twists at the end of this. I didn't think that they would actually be surprising. And they were. Like, I didn't see them coming. They are gonna take the story in very interesting directions. I don't know how interested I am in reading book 2, but it's definitely going to be very different from this book, and I think that it's really, really interesting what happens in the last like 100 pages of the book, and it does make the scale like slightly bigger for Cyrus and her friends. So I think that this is actually maybe the biggest deal for romantasy readers. I think that they can be, again, just a guess, too familiar with the same kind of plot, because romantasy it can be very tropey, and this is filled with tropes. But I think that a complaint I often hear is that romantasy books don't have enough plot or world building, and this one, as I said, the world building is a bit shaky, but I do think it's like better than most other romantasy books that I've read, and the plot at the end goes crazy. it goes crazy. Like, it's a little bit unique, and I think that that does really make it stand out. Secondly, I would say that people really love the found family element of this book. I cannot say that I really loved it because I did hate one character that I think that Callie Hart spent the whole book trying to make us like, and I simply don't like him. But I do really love Renfis, and I love Onyx. She has this little fox named Onyx, and so cute. So I do love that. So I would assume that people like the found family element and the way that the story isn't really just about the romance, maybe as much as most romantic books. And then finally, obviously, we have Fisher. Like, I do think that he is the epitome of bad boy. He's hot. Like, he just, I do get it. I get the Fisher hype. I'm not really completely there, but I can see it. I can. Those are my guesses. I do have to leave for work, but I will come back later and give you guys a spoiler-filled kind of rant, honestly, about this. If you are not going to be watching that, thank you so much for watching the video. I will see you in one coming soon, and goodbye. Let me know what you think about this book in the comments below. All right, for those who are staying, I will see you in just a second. Hi, so it's actually late at night the next day. Excuse the hair. Yeah, just ignore. I've come to give my spoiler thoughts on Quicksilver, and honestly, this book, like, I just realized that I have this hatred for it in me. Like, a little bit. I don't know. Every day that goes by, I dislike it more, and I'm sorry, but let's get into spoilers. I've got a list, so I'm gonna maybe be looking over here a little bit. First things first, I'll discuss what I mentioned earlier, how I don't think that Callie Hart is actually going to be exploring other realms in the universe. And this is because, if you read the book, there are 3 characters that are like the big bad. Wait, let me go turn off my heater. It's making noise. 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna crochet. Sorry, I feel like this is already chaotic. Guys, look how good this looks, by the way. I'm making like a cardigan type thing with this yarn, and look how beautiful. Anyway, the reason I don't think that we're going to other realms is because of this triumvirate that Callie Hart has set up as like the big bad of the series, from what we can tell. There's some like gods stuff involved in this, but I don't think that this is going to be the kind of series where our main characters are like going against the gods. It's more so just like that they're there. So the triumvirate is Madra, Belicon, who's like the king of Evelia, and Malcolm, this evil vampire guy. I didn't mention this at all in the vlog, but the Fae in this book are kind of like half vampire, because there was this vampire curse put on them like 1,000 years ago, and they started drinking blood, and the reason that they're fighting the vampires is because they think that they're like, they suck, and they're like bloodsuckers. Well, they suck people's blood, and they basically can turn them into like vampire, like zombie type things. So I get it. Like, I do understand why they're fighting this war. Malcolm is like the leader of the vampires. So Belicon, Madra, and Malcolm are all working together and call each other brother and sister. Who knows if they're actually related? Maybe it's one of those things like when you call your dad's friend your uncle or something. I was actually really shocked at that. So Cyrus kills Malcolm at the end, like for sure, dead. So now there's only 2 of the triumvirate left. Madra is from Zilverin, and then Malcolm and Belicon are both from the Fae world. So I don't think that we're gonna really go to other realms. And again, if like you could just say this is a portal to fairy and like the world of fairy, and then it's just gonna deal with these 2 worlds. I don't know, like, as I mentioned before, I'm not even that obsessed with like multiple timeline, multiple dimension type stories. Like, I don't usually even like that, but I just feel like if you have that idea and you don't expand on it, it makes you look a bit silly. You know what I mean? Next thing I had, should I get into Fisher now or at the end? No, I'll talk about twists, and then at the end I'll talk about Fisher and why I don't like this man. Twists first. So yes, I was honestly shocked about Belicon, Malcolm, and Madra all working together. That surprised me. I also was kind of shocked that Carrion turned out to be the heir. I really thought it was going to be a Throne of Glass situation where it's Cyrus, but it turns out Carrion has been Fae this whole time. and knew this about himself, obviously, because he's Fae, and is like the heir to the Fae kingdom. I do hate this twist because I hate Carrion. I just know that people are fans of Carrion. I think I saw someone's review for Quicksilver on Fable the other day, which like confirmed it. Like she was like, "My God, I love Carrion. I think he's so funny." What? Why? Why? I think he's very like, he has very romantic-y humor where it's all about sex, and he's also low-key misogynistic. But then he's also kind of bisexual. Like he will fuck anything that moves. I'm not even kidding. Maybe even if they're not moving, he would. I can't say that. That's really bad. I can't say that. Carrion's number one character trait is being horny and being fucking rude about it, by the way. So the first time we ever see him, he's in this bar and Cyrus's brother Hayden just like lost a bunch of money to him, and she's like going up to him and being like, "Hey, like please like give Hayden back his scarf or whatnot." We know that like she and Carrion have slept together, and he like makes fun of her for sleeping with him in front of his whole friend group at the bar, in front of all these like nasty men. He's just like, "Wow, you slept with me, you dirty." Like, okay. And then all his friends like giggle. I hate him off the bat. And then instead of like, this pissed me off so much. So Fisher is like they make this deal basically where she has to do everything that Fisher says. They make a blood oath. She will do whatever he wants her to do. He has control over her physically and mentally, which he tricks her into this deal. I will get back to that part. His end of the deal is that he'll go and get Cyrus's brother from Zilverin, because Cyrus literally thinks, like, Madra basically told her, "I will kill everyone you love and everyone in your district because you stole this gauntlet," like, because she sucks. Apparently that didn't happen, but the whole like first part of the book, Cyrus is super scared that her brother is like dead already. So Fisher tricks her into this deal. He goes and he brings back Carrion because her scent is all over Carrion. And another thing that's so disgusting is how much Fisher is always talking about her scent. But this is about Carrion, so let's get back to that. So he brings Carrion back and then like refuses to go back to Zilverin to get Hayden, which fair enough, like he has to go to the depths of Madra's castle to like get to the quicksilver pool and get out of it every time. So then Carrion becomes a part of this little like found family, and we're supposed to somehow like him a bit, and I don't. He doesn't grow on me. He doesn't change at all over the course of the book. Like there's no character growth. I guess he's like nice-ish to Cyrus, but like not really. He like also wants to fuck everyone there, obviously. I just hate him. I hate him so much. Fuck Carrion. I hope he dies in the next book. I can say that because he's a fictional character. So at the end of the book, big thing that happens is like Fisher and Cyrus have this like big moment. They're like, "Oh my God, wow, we're in love." And then he like leaves her. She wakes up alone. And it turns out he's gone to like fight the vampire baddies all by himself. And like he's probably gonna die. He's just like sacrificing himself for everyone. Honestly, there's more, but I cannot get into like this clip is already 10 minutes long. It's going to be at least half an hour. I'm not gonna go through everything. She ends up going through this portal. She goes with Carrion and Lauren, this other Fae guy. Loreth. They go to this place where it turns out that Fisher was trapped for like the last year or so. It's like this thing happened in his backstory. Jesus, this plot is actually kind of complex. Props. Like there is backstory here. It's too much for me to like summarize now. But anyway, they're in this place. They see the triumvirate and there's this like maze, right? And Fisher was apparently trapped in this maze for the whole time that he was missing before the story began, and that's why he's like always so grumpy and whatever. And this maze sucks and is super dangerous. And then they have to like escape the maze to get out. but Fisher's been opening shadow portals in this realm the whole time. So why are they going through the maze? Like, the whole, like, climactic, like, action sequence at the end is them in this maze. And Fisher just made, like, 3 different shadow portals from this area. So it's not like he can't be making them. So I was confused on that. That's first thing. Why? At least address it, babe. Cyrus is, like, about to die, which is sad. And then she gets bitten by a vampire named, like, Diathanus or something to save her life. And Fisher, like, begs him to. And he's like, yeah, sure, cool, I'll do it. And then as she's, like, about to wake up and become a vampire, she gets sucked into, like, the god world. And the god of chaos is there. And he's like, hey, babe, so you and Fisher, you already know you're fated mates. Because we actually found that out before. I'm sorry I didn't tell you guys. I will get to it. Let's back up. They're at this tree. And he's like, look up at this tree, like, all the leaves on these branches are different realms. She can, like, see all these different futures and possibilities. And he's like, yeah, in every timeline, you guys somehow come together. But then it's also, like, super tragic. Like, it's like super sad and depressing. And then also, like, it leads to kind of, like, earth-shattering bad consequences for everyone else. And the only time that it's, like, kind of fine or, like, we can't see the outcome is when I don't even know. Oh, he said, okay, he was like, so you're supposed to actually be Fae. That's how the fates had decided it. But I tried to change it to, like, protect everyone else because you guys are gonna really, like, ruin the entire world. So that's why you're a human. But you guys still ran into each other anyway. He's like, hey, do you want me to, like, block you from the side of the gods? And she's like, yeah, cool, for sure. And he's like, yeah, okay, sounds good. Don't really remember why. I think the other gods, like, want them dead too because they'll fuck up their world or something. It's been a couple days since I read this and it's already like leaving my mind. So she goes back, she wakes up, she's half fae, half vampire. And of course she is. Like, I knew there was no way that the book would end with her being human. Like, and we already kind of knew before that she was partly fae already or something. She had, like, a fae name and there were hints. But now they're like, wow, you're like no one we've ever seen before. And also, you killed the vampire king. So now technically you're the vampire queen. So that's how the next book is set up. Interesting. I'm not sure how, like, intrigued I am by it. But of course, she has to become something immortal in order for their love to even seem kind of, like, feasible. So you know that has to happen. And why am I explaining all this? Anyway, lots going on at the end. That's how the second book is being set up. She's going to be the queen of the vampires. She's going to figure out this whole new way of life. She still wants to, like, reunite with Hayden and Elroy, like the blacksmith guy. It's coming in November, which is kind of a ways away. So that's what's happening there. It's fine. I think when I was reading it, I was like at this cafe, I was reading the ending and I was like, there's a lot going on. And I think that this ending is probably why it stands out to a lot of people who read romantasy and why they're like, wow, this one's really, really special, as I mentioned before. Anyway, I fear I've become slightly incoherent, but I'm gonna move on to Fisher, my number one enemy. I hate this man. I hate him so much. And it's so sad because at times I was really fooled by, like, his hotness. Like, I was like, you know what though? He is pretty sexy. So, like, can we be mad at him? Yes, we can. I'm gonna preface this with something that we don't know for most of the book, just to, like, shed light on his actions. We find out that obviously they're fated mates. And we also find out that Fisher has known this, and he's been known. Like, he's been knowing this for ages. His mom was, like, a seer, like an oracle. And she used to draw pictures of Cyrus, but she drew her as fae with, like, pointed ears and that. And was like, yo, Fisher, this is your soulmate. You're gonna be together, but, like, it's kind of cursed. Like, it's gonna be super tragic. So he knows this. And he is, like, he's got so much emotional baggage. So when he meets her, he's like, no, don't fall in love with me. I'm going to treat you super bad so you don't, like, fell in love with me because I'm just gonna ruin this. I'm just gonna ruin things. And like, we can't be together because you're human and you're gonna die and I'm gonna be like super sad. That is the explanation we get for why he treats her so poorly. And I don't think it's enough to make me forgive him. So these are the things he did. I made a list of all the bad, horrible things that he does. Number 1, he placed her under an oath and commanded her to do things against her will. I mentioned this earlier. He can control her physical body and like what she does. She has no say in this. This typically involves in the book having her, he for at one point confines her to his bed for a week while he goes and does war stuff, and then later tells her it's because he was like really worried that she was gonna die, so he was like doing it for her safety. She could only get up to go to the bathroom and then go back to bed, and that was it. He uses this to physically control her body, and I think he releases her from the oath like at the very end of the book, but for the majority of the book, even when they're like falling in love and that, he still has that option to make her do whatever. And I think at one point he does say that she should be like grateful that he's not using that to make her like have sex with him. I'll find the quote and I'll put it up on the screen, but I don't want to look for it right now. Scum of the earth. There's not even a baseline of respect when they meet each other. He sees her as like this tiny little bug that can be crushed because he sees human as like super insignificant things. And to be fair, to an immortal person, yeah, I get it. Like, humans come and go in a blink of an eye. He's like 1,800 years old and she's like 20, 24 maybe. But he literally treats her like she's less than human almost the entire book. Like, until he like caves and they have sex or something, and then he's like, wow, she's like actually like a real person. That's terrifying, and I don't like it, and I don't know how she could ever move past it. And also, so like throughout the end of the book, she like has all these moments where she's like, if he does this to me, then I'll leave him. Like, if he takes over control of me, he knows I'll never forgive him, and we're never coming back from that. I have no faith in you, Severus, that you will do what you say, because you are continually going to a man who treated you like shit. I don't care if he says it was because you're fated to be together and because he was just like, he's super emotionally unavailable. Like, he doesn't even ask her about contraception the first time that they have sex, and he finishes in her. He leaves right after they have sex through one of their like shadow portals. So he comes back, gets her in the morning, and is like, come with me, we're going to the Camp Medic to get you some Plan B. And she's like, oh, no, it's okay, like, I'm sterilized. And then she mentions in the like narration, like, oh, he didn't ask about it last night. And I'm supposed to like this man? He didn't even bring it up? That's so unattractive. He's terrifying. What? And then he has the nerve to be pissed that she's sterile. And then later, at the scene at the end where they're talking to the Triumvirate, Madra's like, why don't you like me? And he's like, because you sterilized my mate. Like, I can never forgive you for that. I want to kill you just for that. And he doesn't even think to mention the fact that, like, you know, she created a society where Cyrus and her brother were literally starving and dying, growing up their whole life. Like, that didn't really come to mind for him. It was really just about the fact that Cyrus can't give him babies. I hate him. Okay. Moving on, this is the last thing, and it's kind of lower on the list, but still such an asshole thing to do. He kept like making her do a bunch of things she didn't have to do that would like take up a lot of her time just to mess with her when she's literally trying to get back to her family. So the whole deal, like the whole premise of the book is like she has to make these weapons and work with Fisher to do that. Or not weapons, but like the things that can get them through the quicksilver, these relics. And he actively makes that really hard for her. every day. So like the first day they go to the castle forge, it's in shambles. Like it's a mess. They spend all day cleaning it by hand. Renfest comes to see them that night and he's like, Fisher, why are you doing this? Fisher waves his hand and it's all fixed. It's all fixed. Asshole, she's trying to get back to her brother. And then he continues to do this stuff. He hides the quicksilver that she has to work with every day at various places around the forge so she can't find it, to like make her look for it. I don't know. It's so mean. It's so mean. I guess we're supposed to forgive him for every single thing he does because they're fated mates and apparently they're supposed to be together. What? And she does. She just forgives it. The other thing that pisses me off is that their romance is super underdeveloped. Like, they go from hating each other to being in love like that. It's actually crazy. And I do think that, like, I probably mentioned this in the last clip, they do have a moment where, like, we learn more about Fisher's backstory and that, but I wish I had gone further and I wish it was deeper and more prolonged and actually more slow burn so that we got a sense of what these characters actually like about each other. Like, actually, because the whole fated mates thing, I really just hate. It feels low effort. It feels like that's a stand-in for having to actually develop these characters well. Instead, we're just like, okay, well, they have to be together. So there, they love each other. And I don't really get it. I don't get it. Like, it feels like baseline, he didn't even see her as, like, a being with thoughts and feelings equal to his own, you know? Like, he didn't see her as someone with worth for most of the book. And then we're supposed to believe that he loves her, and I just don't buy it. Wow, that felt good. That was a good rant. Oh, it made me so angry. I could say more, but honestly, I have been talking for 25 minutes about this. As to whether or not I will be reading the second book, that remains to be seen. I don't know. So Quicksilver, can I even stick to my 2.5 star rating at this point? I don't know. It feels like a 1 star to me right now. But I do recall some moments where I was reading it and I was like, you know, this is fine. I think for the longest time when I was reading it until I was about halfway through, it was very nothing to me. Like, it didn't inspire many emotions in me. Like, I was kind of just like, this feels like every other romantasy I've ever read. Yeah, I guess that's the video. Jesus Christ. Thank you for watching this. If you would like to see me read any other romantasy books, let me know. I really want to understand. I think I went into this really trying to get it, and I don't right now. I don't. If you watched to this point in the video, thank you. Leave a, oh my god, is there a fox emoji? Okay, it's not gonna be a white fox like Onyx in the book, but leave a fox emoji if you watched to this point, because Onyx was my favorite character and deserves way better than Cyrus. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment. I want to know if you've read this book, if you've read, like, just give me thoughts. I want to know your thoughts. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you think I'm absolutely horrible because this is your favorite book of last year or something? Please tell me. I want to know. Let's have a discussion. If you liked this, potentially think about subscribing to my channel. I love doing reading vlogs. This is my favorite thing to film, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I'm sorry I'm such a mess. I'm such a mess in this video. That really made me angry. I love you all. See you in a video soon. Bye.